Hi, everybody. Welcome to our next episode here of the Next Chapter in Schools, sponsored by Corvessa Partners. I'm your host, Peter Young. I have the privilege of being joined today by Michael England, president of St. Mary's Southside Catholic High School there in St. Louis, Missouri. Mike, welcome to the podcast. Just want to give you the opportunity to start us off, to introduce yourself, the school, and anything you'd like us to know about it to get started here.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here with you. I appreciate the opportunity to participate in this discussion. I am the president, as you said, of St. Mary's Southside Catholic High School. This is my 13th year at the school. My background leading up to this is started as an educator. I was a math teacher, soccer, basketball, baseball coach, and didn't like what I was seeing as far as the school that I was at, how it was being run, as far as how decisions were being made. A lot of the decisions, majority of the decisions were being made in the best interest of the adults and not in the best interest of the students. And so to try to address that, I decided that it might be good to become an administrator. And I moved into the administration of that school, became an assistant principal, moved up and ended up becoming the president of that school. And that's a longer story. Read in my book, did that for a little over 5 years and then moved on to St. Mary's High School. St. Mary's High School is an archdiocesan high school, or was an archdiocesan high school. And again, it's a very long story to get to the end, but I think the significance for this is that on September the 20th of 2022, myself and my principal were called down by the Archdiocese for a meeting, and we were told of their intent to close our school at the end of the academic year. The main reason for this was money. What we do here at St. Mary's is we serve predominantly a poor demographic of families from an economic standpoint, not poor from a academic or ability standpoint. 95% of our young men are an all-boys school, 9 through 12. 95% of our young men need financial aid. Median income of those families is $38,000. And we're located in the Dutchtown neighborhood in the city of St. Louis. It's in South City. And the median income of Dutchtown is $30,000. So we're in a very underserved area of the city of St. Louis. And so when we were told this by the Archdiocese, I always tell the story for 10 minutes. I don't know what I said. It wasn't good. We didn't see this coming at all. But after about 10 minutes, I looked at him and I said, no, you're not doing this. This school's too important to the young men that we serve, and it's too important to this neighborhood of which we're the anchor, and also of which within walking distance of this school, there are 2 already closed schools.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
High school, and across the street is a elementary school. And so you're going to close, we're on a 23-acre campus. You're going to close 23 acres of St. Mary's High School and think this is going to be good? It would be devastating. And so we're going to figure out a way to make this work. And again, we could talk about how that process was. We obviously did figure it out. We were able to, again, it's a pretty incredible story. They didn't think we could do it, but we did. We are now in year 3 of the new St. Mary's Southside Catholic High School. We had to change the name of the school because the Archdiocese wanted there to be a distinction between the old entity and the new entity. We didn't own anything when we did this and became independent of the Archdiocese, so we had to negotiate with them a lease agreement. But that lease agreement came with, we were responsible for having to handle all of the capital issues and problems that arose here. And in year 1, our gym roof failed after 30 years. We knew it was going to happen. We were just kind of trying to kick the can down the road. It had a price tag of $235,000 on it. I called the Archdiocese. I said, I just want to let you know the gym roof failed. And the response was, well, that's too bad. But as per the terms of the lease agreement, that's on your dime. Which we knew, didn't make it any easier. But an alum stepped up 4 days later, called me, said, I heard about the roof. I like what you're doing. I want to help. And I'm dropping a check for $235,000 in the
That's amazing.
It is amazing. God bless.
Yeah.
But God has really been with us in all of this. But that was something that said to us, we can't take $235,000 and pay for an asset that's not ours. We've got to own this property. So we began the process of figuring out a way to buy this property. And again, that's a pretty detailed story I could let you know as well. On July the 14th of this summer, we closed on the purchase of the property. So we now are 100% independent of the Archdiocese, and our new separate C3 owns this property, and it has allowed us to do a lot of other partnerships that maybe we could discuss as well.
Sure. Yeah, so let's dive into that. Obviously, you talked about the median income. You talked about sort of roughly the kids coming to your school. So from a I'll say funding model, it's not through tuition mechanisms. So can you talk a little bit more, Mike, in detail about what are some of those partnerships that maybe you've tried to tap into or have tapped into to allow these students, remind me how many kids are there, but to allow these students to attend your school?
Right now, the good news of what's going on here at the school is our enrollment is growing, which
Okay.
is this year we are at 230 students. The year before that, we started at 197.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Is growing, and we're expecting next year it's going to be anywhere from 275 to 290, looking at what we have right now. So those are really good news, and we're happy with that. Right now, the funding model is the tuition that comes here, and every student that comes here pays something, because everybody has to have some skin in the game. But we never ask anybody to pay more than they're capable of paying, because we don't want a tuition payment getting in front of, keeping the lights on or food on the table or any of those other kind of things. Our tuition that we receive probably covers between 20 and 25% of our budget. So it is on me and us right now that we need to raise $4 million annually. $2 million of that is what I call our annual fundraising. And so those are our annual appeals, and that's our auction. That's our the different things that all schools do. The other 2 million now is on me to go out and raise. And that's basically replacing the money that the Archdiocese used to provide for us to our operations, which was the reasons that the Archdiocese decided to cut us loose. They didn't want to pay that anymore. And so right now, I think we're just building our base. As I think I said before to you, I appreciate the opportunity being on this, because I'm going on as many platforms as I can to tell people our story, because our story is a pretty incredible story. It's very important. Failure is not an option for us.
Right.
Because we carry not only the responsibility to the young men that we serve, we carry a responsibility to this neighborhood, that if we would go away, pick a number and multiply it by it, because that's how much it's going to be.
Yeah.
Greatly increased the amount of money that we're receiving through foundations. We have a grant writer that does some great work on our behalf with what it is that we're doing. We are now starting to get in front of corporate entities and be able to talk with them about what's going on. I've been approached by the University of Notre Dame School of Law, asking if we would be interested in having them provide us with support to try to become a Catholic charter school. And I get a lot of, once we became independent, I had a lot of people come to me and say, well, just become a charter school. Just quit being Catholic and become a charter school. And I've said no, because the quality of this school, even though 75% of our young men are not Catholic, is rooted in our Catholic foundation. Our young men greatly benefit from learning about it. And our goal is not to convert. Our goal is to just let them know about, a God in their life that loves them, that they can turn to and rely on. And I tell them our story, because God, I really believe, is doing this work right now with what it is. And so it's a great benefit to the quality of our school. I'll tell you this, in our area, we are a highly accredited school. And I know that because of our last accreditation review. Cognia did the review, and they said in our report at the end, all of the schools throughout the country that they have done accreditation reviews over the last 5 years, the average score was 278, and our score was 310. So we're highly accredited education to this area. And when we became independent, I think, like you and I talked before, one of the things that we've done that I think is a bit cutting edge here is we added a pre-apprenticeship program in the trades to our which is having some great success.
Right. So to continue that thread, and I know you mentioned Notre Dame, and we won't talk about it today, but I'm just fascinated about sort of people wanting you to, quote, become a charter school, because you're right. Then you just lose your whole identity, I feel like, right? And so to me, that's a no-brainer as to why you would say no, but yeah, it's just interesting. You mentioned Notre Dame as an example, but are there other either current partners or potentially future partners, A, that you'd like to shout out, or B, just sort of describe in general that have become key to sort of the sustaining growth and or just sort of in general survival of the school?
Well, I think, like I mentioned, this pre-apprenticeship program has really given us a new platform to grow. The way that we had it, I've always had this idea of doing it. And I even brought the superintendent and his assistant from the Archdiocese 6 or 7 years ago. We went to Rankin Technical College here in St. Louis and visited. And I'll never forget the CEO, a gentleman by the name of Stan Schoen, said to me at the end, he said, "Mike, there's not a shortage of jobs in St. Louis. There's a shortage of people trained to do those jobs." And I went, "That's it. That's what we're going to do." Didn't get quite the same reaction from the Archdiocese. Then we went through COVID. Then we went through them trying to close us. But once we became independent, there's a gentleman by the name of Jake Hummel, who's a St. Mary's alum. At the time, he was also a St. Mary's parent. His son was a senior here, and he's the president of the Missouri AFL-CIO.
Oh, wow, yeah.
When we were going through trying to figure out what we were going to do to become independent and move forward, he came into my office and said, "Mike, what can I do to help?" And I said, "Jake, I've always had this idea of the value of the trades. Could you put together for me a program that's not going to cost me anything that we could offer now?" And he said, "I think I can." And he came back and he said, "I've got a program now for you, fully funded for the next 4 years through the Missouri Works Initiative. And it's a pre-apprenticeship program. And we have it as a part of the curriculum. Everything's paid for. The teachers paid for. The tools are paid for. The safety equipment, the transportation. And our young men go and visit 15 different trade training facilities. And they get hands-on experience in those trades. And at the end of the program, they all earn their OSHA 10 certification. And that certification allows them, upon graduation from St. Mary's, if they so choose, they can go into one of those 15 apprentices immediately as a paid apprentice. And at the end of our first year, the unions provided for us a mentoring night. And they brought in 4 first-year apprentices to speak to our young men and their families. And I'll never forget, 18-year-old African-American young man gets up in front of the group and he says, "I'm a first-year carpentry apprentice. I'm on the low end of the pay scale, but I'm making $36.75 an hour." And I grabbed my phone and I got my calculator and I punched in the numbers and I got up and I said, "Stop. I don't want anybody to miss what this young man just said. This 19-year-old young man on the low end of the pay scale, making $36.75 an hour this year, is going to make $81,000. He's got amazing benefits. Oh, yeah, and he's got no student debt. How is this not a great opportunity for us to offer all of you with what we can do?" And so we're in year 3 of this program. The unions are thrilled with the results. It's now fully funded for as long as we want to keep doing it.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
My hope is to expand this into the future with a possible partnership with Rankin Technical College in a way that possibly could become post-secondary. I also have a big dream of how possibly this could be used for adult education, weekend classes, evening classes. Because in the area that we're in here in the city of St. Louis, Dutchtown, even though we have a median income of $30,000, the highest concentration of kids under the age of 18 live in this area.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it's a very populated area as well. And so how do we raise the median income? We teach people these marketables that can go out and improve this. The idea of it being better to teach people how to fish than to give them a fish. And so that's the work that we're trying to do here at St. Mary's. I could also, I know I'm talking a lot, but
No, that's perfect.
I'd also be remiss if I didn't tell you about a program that we have here as well here in the school called the St. Joseph Housing Initiative. We started this program 8 years ago. Archbishop Robert Carlson here in St. Louis spoke to a lady by the name of Bridget Flood, who's the executive director of the Incarnate Word Foundation. And he said, "I want to do something as a response to the Ferguson report, and I would like it to be around home ownership. And if you could put something together for me, I will provide you with your initial funding." So Bridget came to me and said, "I see what you're doing here at St. Mary's. Would you like to partner with me on this?" And I said, "Absolutely, 100%. And so Bridget and I are the co-founders of what's now known as the St. Joseph Housing Initiative, whose office at St. Mary's. And what we do is we buy houses around St. Mary's. Normally they're vacant. We renovate them to the highest standard, new roof, new HVAC, new appliances, and then we sell them to low and moderate income families that have never been able to own a home before, allowing them for the first time to build up their own personal wealth and equity through home ownership. We provide those families with $5,000 of down payment assistance. Every year that they stay in the house, we forgive $1,000 of that loan. We've already moved families into 16 houses. This was never intended to be just a South City project. It was to be for the entire city of St. Louis. So 2 years ago, we got 3 houses right next to each other in North City in an area called Baden, and we renovated those houses, and we've already moved people into those.
Yeah.
5 houses were on one street here in South City on Alaska, and the University of Missouri St. Louis Criminology Department just did a study, and they looked at all of the areas because we cluster our homes when we were the ones that we buy and renovate. And in the areas that we have renovated homes that have been clustered, violent crime has dropped by 50% and property crime has dropped by 33%.
Right.
So that's some great work, again, coming out of St. Mary Southside Catholic High School that is supporting our neighborhood and our community.
Yeah, the larger community for sure. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned earlier about being an anchor in the town, and I think those are all really good examples of that. Just curious to know, Mike, beyond some of those examples you mentioned in terms of partnerships, are there other sort of non-tuition related revenue streams that you all are either tapping into or thinking about or want to think about, for example?
I'm not. What do you mean? Give me what you mean by non-tuition.
For example, so I've had conversations with schools, and some of them are on the smaller end, right? Like 190, 230 students, where they're thinking about, so for example, facility rental, thinking about, reaching out to the community to say, dear church group or dear community group,
Yeah,
would you like to rent our gym, or, things like that?
We're thinking about that. We're
Yep.
also looking at other partnerships, and it's not so much from a standpoint of that it's going, I mean, obviously we're looking for ways to generate revenue. The idea of possibly this post-secondary facility that's in its infancy of discussions, in my mind, please God, would be a revenue generating facility.
Right.
We've also got some other partnerships that we're talking with people about that could possibly just be more community services, because the idea of what I think is going to make this work for us and is going to draw more donors toward us is that we are much more than just a high school. We
Right.
are the community resource in this neighborhood. And so it's becoming, something that is going to draw in investment. We knew when we became, for us to be independent of the Archdiocese and to make this work, the definition of insanity, we couldn't keep doing the same thing.
Exactly right.
We needed to do this differently. And so that is where the pre-apprenticeship program came from. We already had, St. Joseph Housing and doing what they're doing with that. And we're looking at a couple other things right now. I wish I could talk with them right now, but right now I can't because they're still, we're looking,
for sure.
We're looking to get them over the finish line. We're looking at a big 2026 though, for some major announcements that
Right.
is going to bring some great excitement to the city of St. Louis with what it is that we're looking to do.
Awesome. Yeah. Obviously, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you in terms of the schools thinking about technology, AI, either student facing or sort of school facing in general. So I guess the question is, over these last couple of years, that you've been with the school pre-Archdiocese, selling you out or post, how's the school viewing sort of the role of technology? I've talked to lots of school leaders, and they're literally all over the map, Mike, right, in terms of what that looks like. But I'm just curious to know, sort of, with the advent of AI, what's the perception at St. Mary's? What's the approach to technology and AI? And then sort of what are you all thinking about, in the future?
Well, I think, I'll tell you this. I'm glad I'm not in the classroom anymore with the issues that I know our teachers are going through with ChatGPT and all of the different things that are out there right now. But I can tell you this, that what we need to do here is we need to make sure that we're not operating on a shoestring. This has to be something that is being done of the highest quality and the highest level. And we are constantly looking to make investments in our education on behalf of our young men. Our pay scale from the Archdiocese was atrocious.
I taught for 2 years at a small Catholic school in Brookline, Massachusetts.
Yeah, a first-year teacher's payment was below the poverty level.
Right.
So the first thing that we did when we became independent of the Archdiocese is we said, we're going to invest in our teacher pay. And so in year one, we gave all of our teachers an 8% pay increase. In year two, last year, we gave them another 8% pay increase. And this year, we gave them a third 8% pay increase. So now our level is now competitive with the other schools that are out there. So now we're doing a much better job of recruiting and retaining high quality teachers. And so that's a short answer to what I see in our future is to be looking at things like AI and technology for what they can add to the quality of what it is that we're already looking to do. Because I think that in areas like where we're located in our city public schools, sometimes I think we give into the narrative of the city. City bad, county good, city poor, county rich. And again, we lose sight of the quality. And if the quality doesn't accompany the program in the long run, it's going to fail. And so anything that adds quality to the education and to the opportunities, because I see AI being something that can also help us with this pre-apprenticeship program in the trades and all of those different things that are coming into the future with what's going on. And so anything that can add to the quality increases the level of opportunity that is being presented. And that's really what I'm focused on providing, again, not just for our young men, but for this neighborhood as a whole.
Mike, last question, and then after that, I'll give you the chance to share anything else that you would like to share either about yourself or the school. And please let folks know how they can get in touch with you. But my last question is this: what right now gives you the most excitement and energy looking ahead to the future of St. Mary's?
I think what gives me the greatest energy and excitement started, like I said, this summer when we signed those papers.
Got it.
Over full ownership of this school. We now control our destiny. We don't have to ask anybody for their permission. And so we're very focused on what we need to be doing. What we need to be doing is to be providing the highest level of education and opportunities to the young men that we serve, and at the same time, increasing the things that we can do for our neighbors as the anchor in this neighborhood. And that's exciting because we're more than a high school. We're more than a high school. Now, we carry a great amount of responsibility, and I feel it. I feel it each and every day. I can't tell you, when they made the announcement that they were going to close us, the number of neighbors around us that called me here in my office and said, Mike, please, you've got to keep it open. We'll bake cookies. We'll make phone calls. We'll do whatever. If I had the money, I'd give it to you, but I don't. But we need you. And there's 27, I believe, other Catholic high schools in the St. Louis metropolitan region. If any of those 27 went away, it would be terrible, but it wouldn't affect their neighborhood. If we go away, this neighborhood spins out of control. And so we are carrying a great responsibility, which we accept with open arms. I say often, if not St. Mary's, then who? And that, it's us. Right. And we're going to do this work because God's calling us to do this work. And we're getting wonderful response from donors and from corporate entities. And it's really, the best asset that I have right now is our story, because our story is an incredible story. It's an incredible story of survival and resilience. And it's an incredible story of what we're looking to do moving into the future and how it can serve not just our young men, but this neighborhood. I'll tell you where this all started. This all started for me before I got here. There was an apartment complex behind the school, and it was filled with crime and drugs and lots of bad things. And my predecessor, Father Mitch Doyen, saw that it went on the market, got with the then mayor of the city of St. Louis, Francis Slay, who's a St. Mary's alum, and they put together the resources. They bought it. They helped the people that were in it find a new place to live. They knocked it down and they built a baseball field. But the moral of the story for Mike England, when he came to St. Mary's, was that when that building went away and that baseball field went in, 911 calls to the 63111 zip code dropped by 90%.
Right. Yeah.
And I said to myself, that's the work we're also responsible for doing.
Mm-hmm.
And we can. It's amazing what a school can do
Right.
in an underserved area if it has access to the resources. And I
Right.
say to people right now, please, I'm not asking for donations because donations have a shelf life. I'm asking for investment because investment in St. Mary's Southside Catholic High School ripples out into the community and will ripple far into the future with what can happen in this neighborhood to make it better.
Mike, any last words that you'd like to share? How can people get in touch with you? And then I will thank you for your time.
Well, again, I really appreciate the time. I kind of just, my last comment there is, what I know is that, again, as I said, our story, I've got to get our story out on as many platforms as I can to get in front of as many people as I can, because we're only limited in what we can do by the resources that we have access to. And what I'm still trying to build here is that financial future. I'm trying to put that in place so that this place is never going away. I'm looking to build an endowment. I'm looking to do the things that, all places would do. But very few places in a neighborhood like ours have been able to accomplish. And I think part of the reason is people, they get discouraged. They get discouraged and think that it's a lost cause. Well, it's not a lost cause here. What I tell people, when we told the Archdiocese no, we didn't tell them no because we were fighting for the legacy of this school. And this school has a tremendous legacy. It's been here since 1931, but we're not fighting for a legacy. We're fighting for a quality Catholic education for all young men, especially those that cannot afford it. And we're fighting for a neighborhood that desperately needs us to not just continue, but to grow and provide more opportunities for them. We're looking to address the poverty, the lack of opportunity, and the lack of education that is at the root of the causes of the median income here in our neighborhood. And we're in for the long haul. And I'm looking for partners and I'm looking for investors. And I'm easy to get hold of. St. Mary's Southside Catholic High School. Mike England, I'm the president. Call the school. Ask for me, and I'd be happy to talk.
Mike, thank you again for your time, sir. Again, Mike England, President, St. Mary's Southside Catholic High School there in St. Louis, Missouri. Mike, thanks again for your time, and I'm going to wish you the best of luck, sir.
Peter, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.